Hello, everyone. It's me, Andrew. I'm here in the bedroom at Star Cottage Studio. I'm super happy to be here with all of you. It's dark outside now, but it was a beautiful day in lovely Ligonier, Pennsylvania. Um, it was a little chilly today. Hopefully, it was beautiful where you are. Out there watching. So hopefully you all are having a great day. I'm a little bit late today because I went out and voted. I have a couple meetings right after this, so I'm going to need somebody who's watching to give me a time check. So if you're out there and are willing to hang out with me until the end, I would appreciate a time check for, let's say, 6:10, because I have a meeting at 6:15 and I can run over to the other room and do that meeting. I took another meeting earlier today, and that kind of bumped up when I had to go and vote. And so I ran over there as fast as I could and cast my ballot. Um, it's a midterm election, so there's not I mean, it wasn't a super big ballot for where I am. I don't know about where you are, but it was pretty simple and straightforward. Sometimes there's when they do like a referendum, I have to like read up on it and make sure that you know I know what I'm voting for, because sometimes things are trickily worded. They're tricksy with the way that things are phrased. So anyways, so hopefully you all got a chance to exercise your civic duty if you are watching in the US. I know some of you are tuning in from Canada, so that doesn't necessarily apply to you today, I don't think. But yeah. All right. I see folks are watching. Hey, Michelle. Hey, Teresa. Michelle says, hey, AG Bead Fam. Hashtag AG Bead Fam. Norma's watching. Hey, Norma. Yeah, I was a little bit late because I went, one of my earlier meetings got switched to today and it went a little long. And I have meetings directly after this. And the polls close at 8 here. And I have meetings directly after this and directly after that one. So I didn't think I would be able to have a chance to vote before or after our live today. So I ran it over there before we started. So that's why I'm a little bit late today. But hopefully, it's 5-ish. All right. Norma says hi. And Marian says a sunny 5 degrees Fahrenheit. Ooh, that's chilly. I know some people are sturdier stock than I am, so maybe it's not chilly for you, but it's chilly for me. It was beautiful today. It was probably in the upper 40s here, but the sun was shining. And I think when the sun shines, it makes a world of difference. I'm like, oh, it's cold, but I could do all kinds of stuff. Um, when it's dark, then I'm like, oh, it's time to go to sleep forever. Um, so yeah, Suzanne is watching. Hey, Suzanne. Suzanne says, we have 10 amendments that are tricky. Oh boy. Anissa is watching. Hey, Anissa. Norma says, the line was long and so was the ballot. We had 2 tricky referendums to vote on. For us, we are in such a small town. Um, that it's kind of an in and out. Like I had to wait for 2 people, but it was really, really quick for where we are. And then I know all the poll workers. Some of them are, live down the street from me, and we're in gardening clubs together and different things like that. So it's really a pleasure to vote here. There's never any problem. I do sneak through the back so that I don't have to go and deal with any of the campaigners. So Hopefully nobody who's watching is a campaigner and like hides by the bathroom at town hall, but I do have my tricksy way of sneaking in so nobody sees me. I do wish that I could go the back way, but they usually lock that door after a certain time. So next time maybe. I didn't get really hassled, so that was fine. But and even I don't know, it's just sometimes awkward because the people are like, "Oh, vote for me," and then you're like, "I'm not. I already decided who I was gonna vote for. I wasn't gonna change my mind like when I was walking through the door." Um, so Amanda says hello. Hey, Amanda. Teresa says New York had a simple ballot. Same here. It's pretty simple. Marianne says, "Hey, AG Bead fam." Michelle says 58 degrees there. Aren't you in California? That seems chilly, but I could be wrong. Marion says it's so important to vote. I agree. Hey, Facebook user. Hopefully you are doing well out there. Marion says it's dang cold. I agree. It's chilly. Teresa says it's cooler today on Long Island, 77 degrees yesterday, today 58. Yeah, it was super beautiful yesterday, and today was a little bit chillier. We had to drop off a piece that I made last night, and I could feel the temperature dropping as we were driving out there. Um, Marion says, you can't campaign on election day here. Yeah, over here, you're not allowed to get in with a certain radius of the poll or the voting booth, but you can stand right outside of it. So sometimes there's a little bit of a bottleneck, so I hide. I go through the back way. Michelle says, yep, California. Do you hang out with June? June is in California. Hey, June. Amanda says, we aren't allowed to campaign on voting days. That's clever. Cynthia says, it's beautiful in Asheville, 70 degrees. I know they voted early because I was like, hell yeah, you didn't register to vote on a certain day, so you have to do it, vote early. And if you don't vote early, you can't vote in this election, and it's your civic duty. And she's like, oh. And so then they went and voted the next day. So because North Carolina has some, I don't think it's not necessarily weird voting laws, but it's like you can't vote on the day of, but you can vote early. I guess that maybe so it doesn't hold up the line. I don't really know because I don't live there anymore. Amanda says, LOL, Marianne. June says, very raining here, pouring. Wow. Isn't that unusual where you are? Aren't you in like a drier area of California? Michelle says near Magic Mountain and Santa Clarita. I feel as though I watched a show about Santa Clarita, but I could be making that up. Wasn't there a show with that with Drew Barrymore with Zombie Time? Lena says I voted early. That's good. Anissa says, lucky Suzanne. And Teresa says, I voted early. Well, hopefully that's good. You all are out there doing your duty. And normally I don't like to shame people, but if you didn't do it, you still got time. At least here in Pennsylvania, you do. All right, so we've got a lot of stuff going on. I have a meeting directly after this. So I need to get going with the project. Otherwise, you're going to see like me start a project but not finish it. So I'm super excited about today. We're going to be using waxed Irish linen and doing some knotting, some real basic knotting. Some of you are way more advanced than this technique, but we'll just hang out and have fun. So we'll be knotting and we'll also be using some vintage ceramic components. If you didn't see the video, I think it was last week, maybe it was on Friday. I can't remember. if you watched last week's Live at 5 on Friday, I want to say, we had a sell down of some of my vintage ceramic, Chinese ceramic beads. A lot of them are still available. So if you missed that sale, you can watch the replay. You do have to email William with the lot number. Some of them are already sold out, and some of them I sold extra of. So, and we sold all of the extra too. But there's probably like, because we generally will do like 50 lots, and there's probably, I don't know, 40 lots that were left. A lot of times people like the same things. So, we had like a couple that were like super popular, and we sold those out several times over. But yeah, we still have more. So, and then we also have other colors that I didn't necessarily bring out. So if you're looking for something in particular, you can always email us. um, our email is info@allegorygallery.com. Sometimes it takes a minute for us to get back to you with that kind of response. And the reason why is the email goes to William, and then he goes through the emails when he is doing his job, um, and he then forwards it to me, and then I have to look around. So sometimes it takes a little bit of a while to get back to some people, because I know there's a couple people who are like, oh, I was looking for XYZ bead, and I'm still looking, because we're still unpacking things here at the cottage. Believe it or not, even though we've been here over a year now, we're still unpacking things. So sometimes it takes a minute. Teresa says, in New York, you have until 9 p.m. And Suzanne says, those ceramic beads are great. Thanks. Yeah, I love them. And sometimes I sprinkle them into kits. So you may, if you buy some of our kits, you may have a little stash of them somewhere. Um, and when I do mystery boxes, I usually throw in kind of a grab bag of them. And I throw in, I try to clear out what I have like ones and twos of when I do like the grab bags. And that way you can, it not only frees up containers for me, but then, you get a little assortment. It makes it tricky sometimes when you go to reorder things because, I haven't really been able to find these since when I originally bought them. So I found them on one website, but they were way, 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 way more. And they were like $2 a bead. And I was like, whoa. Which if you can get it, good job. But I was like, they're not going to pay $5 a bead for these. So anyways, Lena says, can't wait to get mine in the mail. Yeah, I was here yesterday and Barb was packing. So, yeah, and I'm going to apologize in advance because I was doing some polishing before I came on the live just quickly, and my nails are super gross looking. So if you see them, I was not digging in the coal mines or picking other stuff up with my fingers. It's a polishing compound. So I try to get it off as best as I can, but they're still a little bit rough and ready. And somebody, I was like, I get my fingers dirty. And then they're like, well, I wear gloves. And then somebody else was like, well, don't wear gloves because it can get caught up in the rotary tool and you can break your fingers. So I don't wear gloves. And the other thing is that sometimes you can burn yourself really bad, which I have done in the past. There are these heat shields that you can use to grip the things that you're polishing, but sometimes if it's metal and you're polishing it, the friction creates heat and then it heats up the metal. One time I was in a super, super big rush. I had this order for these prototypes that I was making, and I had to get them out the door because they bumped up my timeline 2 months. So I usually budget my time pretty like, it's up to the last second kind of thing. And they bumped it up to 2 months. So when that happened, I had to frantically rush around to get everything ready. And so the piece, I was trying to polish it with a frenzy, and actually got so hot that it actually left a scar on my arm, believe it or not. It fell out of my hands because it got too hot, and then it landed on my arm like a bad penny and burnt me pretty bad. And it has a scar there for years. It's pretty faded now, but you can still see it. So, caution to the wise. Keep a thing of water near your little bench grinder and take breaks in between. And, you know, don't aggressively do it too fast, because usually that doesn't, it shaves off like a minute, but is it really worth it to get burnt? I don't think so. Suzanne says mine should come Thursday. Yeah, so Barb works Monday, Wednesday, and Friday usually. So it's usually she runs to the post office on those days. So there you go. Michelle says if you can make jewelry or crafts with nails, will be a mess. Your nails will be a mess. Yeah, usually I'm pretty good about it. I'm pretty careful. But when I'm in the thick of a project, sometimes I get less vigilant. But usually, like there's this cream that I've made, a salve out of different kind of botanical essential oils and beeswax and different things like that. And I'll rub it into my cuticles, and usually that helps provide a little bit of an extra layer. And they also make this thing called glove in a bottle, which was designed by these like Scandinavian fishermen or something. And it's like lotion, but it creates this thin barrier in between your hand, your skin, and like whatever you're getting into. So sometimes if I'm going to work with epoxy putty or epoxy clay, but I'll do that beforehand if I don't have gloves, or if I'm working with polymer. And that's just because, there's certain things. Also, when I do ceramic, I most definitely put that on because ceramic can be very drying for your skin. And so it can kind of leach all of the moisture out of your hands. So I try to take care of them because I realize that my hands are tools. And if you abuse your tools, you can't necessarily go down to the hardware store and get new ones. So I try to be mindful and try to make sure that they last that my hands will last as long as possible. So there's a couple things to keep in mind. William and I are working on a project called All My Little Words. If you have been tuning in for a long time, then you may have seen the first iteration of this. I did hearts and landscapes on them, and then we laser engraved some words. So those are coming up soon. These are a little bit different. They're little squares. They're done with the same salt technique that I've shown before. And I love that technique. And I'm embellished them a little bit, but my goal is to exercise restraint with these, because sometimes I go in and I noodle and noodle and noodle, and things that were supposed to be quick end up taking a super long time. So we're about halfway through printing them or engraving with the laser. The new laser is super fast and it's super quiet, and it sucks the smoke out really good. The other one, I think the fan was a little bit, it didn't keep up with it as well. So sometimes it would get kind of smoky in William's office, and kind of smelly when we would cut acrylic. But since we've moved it down, we also installed another inline fan to help extra suction. So there's that. But so we're about halfway through with the words, And those, if we are lucky, will debut. Um, what's today? Today's Tuesday. The magnets come on Wednesday, so maybe tomorrow, maybe Thursday. I don't know. Hopefully soon, because for one, we have to pay off the laser. We have amassed a small, tiny bit of money to pay off the laser, but I would like to pay it all off. And I negotiated the price down, so it's not too bad, but still, it's still more than I would like to have linger in the ether around me. And the other thing is we're going to New York Jewelry Week, and I love New York, but New York is expensive, y'all. I was looking at prices because I wanted to, I like when I go there. Some people they're like, oh, I'll just go to McDonald's or whatever. Um, and that's cool, but for me, I like to go and kind of soak up the local. Wherever I go, I try to eat somewhere local, and sometimes that's not really an option, especially if you're driving. Sometimes, like when we're driving on road trips, sometimes like we go to like the Burger King because I know they have Impossible Whopper, and because there are many times when we've been driving along the interstate and there's no options, and like I get like because we're vegetarian, so you get like a wilted piece of lettuce with some questionable looking gloppy uh, um, you know, dressing. So in that case, I like to not be too surprised, and we'll stop at places we know. But whenever I go to a new place, I like to kind of explore the restaurants and stuff. And so it's been a long time since we've lived there. So some of the stuff that we used to go to all the time is either closed, it's changed, it's went through multiple different hands of ownership. Um, or it's like become tourist trap kind of thing. So a lot of it's kind of like we're going there for the first time. We're going to be exploring some new things, and it's always nice to kind of try new places. So I've been kind of researching where to go while we're there. And there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of things that I want to try. There are these Korean pockets that look really tasty, and they have vegetarian options. So, anyways, the long and short of that is I'm trying to make some extra money so that when we go, we can just eat whatever and not get super stressed out if we're gonna max our budget out. So that will come out pretty soon. Thursday is the day of giving. Fate gives. And as you know, I'm on the board for Touchstone Center for Crafts in Farmington, Pennsylvania, which is located in Fayette County. And that's a big fundraiser. The store's been pretty slow this year, so usually I try to keep a little bit of money on the side so that I can like give back. This year I wasn't able to do that, so I'm gonna put out a kit hopefully tonight, but I have a long night ahead of me, so I don't know. So I'm gonna put out a kit, and the funds from that kit will go towards our donation that we make every year. So yeah. So please consider getting one of those when we launch it. And I'm also making a series of little pendants that are all bezel set stones. And I know they're going to be a little bit pricey. I'm going to keep the price down as low as possible, but it does take a toll on my hands. I'll be honest with you. And it does hurt. So I can't make them all the time. I used to try to make, I used to make rings and stuff all the time. But my hands just don't like to cooperate, And somebody's like, well, just push through it. And then I was like, well, that stabbing pain makes it kind of tricky. So, yeah. Let's see. Bonnie is watching. Hey, Bonnie. Teresa says, I love Glove in a Bottle. Me too. It's pretty good. Lena says, so you wish the burnt wood, um, so you miss the burnt wood smell? I don't. No, I don't miss it. But sometimes I actually do. And on fall days, there's actually days when people are like burning their leaves and stuff, and the air is so fresh and it smells of that wood smoke a little bit with that little bit of burnt leaf. And that's a beautiful, beautiful thing. But sometimes when it like sticks into your hands, I'm not a big fan of that. But it is what it is. Teresa says there are a few new vegetarian options. Well, if you know any good ones, let us know because we're always on the hunt. Even though we've been in this area for a long time, we still are finding new stuff. In Pittsburgh, there's a ton of options. Before the pandemic, we really didn't go into Pittsburgh that often. Maybe every couple of months we would go in because we'd be so busy with the store and whatever we've got going on here. But now that I go to Contemporary Craft and I teach there sometimes, we're in Pittsburgh a lot more. And so we're sort of exploring it a little bit more. And it's been interesting. Like the other night we heard of a vegetarian Polish place and we are like, wow, that sounds really good. Suzanne says, have you made the pearl earring kit? No, I was going to make pearl earrings for myself to sell, like finished jewelry. So I did not make those. In theory, I could because I have pearls and I have ear wires, but that's kind of basic. But Marianne says, pain is a signal and you shouldn't be working through it. I agree. When it hurts, you should probably stop or do something different to minimize any of that. So let's switch the camera around because I'm on a time crunch and we've already are going to be dancing very close to the end of my time. And that sounds like the death time, but I have to go to a meeting at 6:15. So if somebody can warn me at 6:10, let me know because now what time is it now? The way that we have our camera, this StreamYard program, it blocks out the camera, so I can't see what time it is, and I use my phone for it. All right, so I've got this little station set up. Here are the ones that I'm going to be using. They're smaller, little rounds. And then I've also got these bigger ones. I don't even know if I'm going to use them all, but I like them. I also have this AG copper. Bonnie says 550. And this says, I'm eating eggplant parmesan from a local Italian-owned place. No yucky fried bread. They get soggy, all sauteed. That sounds good. So I've got a copper colored fine pewter toggle from the AG fine pewter line. So this is an antique copper one. I'm not sure about the code on that one. And I also have some of this wax linen. This is Irish wax linen. I believe this is 4-ply. We sell this in the store, and I believe it's a 2-meter length. I used to have to cut all of that wax Irish linen, so you'd think that would be burnt into my brain. But we also used to cut something else, and it just goes away. So anyways, so this is wax Irish linen. We sell it in these little bundles at the shop. And yeah, it's super good. Some people do not like the feeling of wax Irish linen. I get it. It can kind of feel yucky if you don't like that feeling. So I get it. Now, with this material, I don't know if you can really use. I mean, I'm sure you can knot with other things, but this is probably going to be the best for this kind of technique because if you do it with other stuff, you may have to wax it or figure something else out so that it doesn't come apart. Because waxed Irish linen, one of the good things about it is that when you make a knot into it, the knot will stay. It's like it's in it to win it, y'all. All right. So I dropped this on the floor. And so it's covered in cat hair. I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but it is. I'm going to measure out one wingspan. That's my arm plus my torso. And I'm going to try not to get this super tangled up because it can. All right, and I'm going to cut this, and I'm going to try to cut it on the diagonal so that it makes a nice needle. And one of the other things I'm going to do is I'm just going to run it a couple times to straighten out any kinks that may happen. And a trick that I learned from Heather Powers is to take a piece of brown paper from like a brown paper bag and pull it on the end, and then you'll have a sharper kind of needle. It'll be stiff like that. So I do that on both sides of this because it makes it a little bit easier trying to navigate the holes a little bit. And I give it a little bit of a twist if I can when I'm pulling it through, and it will make it nice and stiff. I'm going to line up these ends here and find the center of my waxed Irish linen here. And I will take this and I will fold it over and make that kind of loop and pass it through this one half of the toggle. Now, if you're having trouble getting this through the toggle, you can take a little bit of soft flex or fishing line or whatever you've got and use that as a needle and fold that over and you can pull it through, and that will help if your holes are small on that kind of thing, then you can go and do it. So I'm going to put this through and I've got this loop here, and then I'm going to take both ends and I'm going to try to keep them relatively parallel so that this knot will look somewhat decent, and take those both ends and pass it through the loop like so. And then gently pull this in place. And this will be how we connect. That's called a lark's head knot. And that's how you connect it. Now, if you have like a knotty do-it-all or a board of some kind, like a clipboard, that helps. Or if you have a pin, you can sometimes pin it and it doesn't move. And then that way you can get a nicer, kind of crisper, you can have it on the board and the board doesn't move around, so you can get a little bit better knots. They're not so wavy gravy style. I don't know where my clip is, so I'm just gonna go with it. In theory, I should have that clip ready because I was doing kumihimo the other day, and I used a little clip for the kumihimo end. So in theory, it should be hanging out somewhere around here, but I don't know where it is. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take one side, and I'm going to bend it over, and it's going to create kind of like a P, and I'm going to go underneath this, the main cord, and this is where it helps when it's all pushed down. And then I'm going to pull it up like so. All right. And then I'm going to make that P, and then I'm going to go under And it's going to make like a friendship bracelet. And I'm going to go and pull it up. I'm going to make that P. I'm going to go underneath the stick part of the P and pull it through and make a knot. And I'm just using my fingers since I don't have my pin and I don't have my my clipboard. And so this is a way to protect the cord and have a little bit of visual bulk. And you can snug them up a little bit firmer, and that's going to create kind of a macrame look. I don't know if this is actually macrame or not. I probably should research what macrame actually is besides, because like I know what macrame is, but I don't actually do macrame like on purpose. So maybe I'm doing macrame now. I don't know. And I'm going to try to keep them. I did a mistake earlier and I went to the other side, but I'm going to try to keep it relatively on the same side. All right. So you're going to have something that looks like that. And I'm going to snug these up a little bit tighter just so that the knots are nice and tight in there. And then I'm going to get these together and I'm going to do an overhand knot. So I'm going to take both cords, I'm going to roll them around my fingers like so, and I'm going to pass them underneath this loop that I've made, and that's just called an overhand knot. It's super easy. If you have shoes with laces, you've probably done this. And then I'm going to gently pull this so that it butts up right up against the braid that I've made, but isn't kind of like floating down here. If you do it too fast, I find that your knot is not as close to your main thing, but that's an overhand knot. And so I'm pull this down and I'm going to take one of these smaller beads and I'm going to kind of fake it that these are the same length by lining these up. And I'm just going to twirl them gently together. All right. Traces in macrame, you do both sides to form a square knot. So I'm not doing macrame. And then I'm going to pass this through that hole. And then I'm going to pull this so that they're the same length. All right. Because my cords aren't the same length because I used one side to knot on the other side. So I'm going to do another overhand knot. And I'm going to pull this through. And I'm going to gently guide this knot so that it is right up against that mini bead right there. All right. I am not going, sometimes you can use a nail to guide it. I've seen people use the tri-horn to do this. I don't, I've stabbed myself with that tri-horn too many times. So I'm just going to use my fingers. And that seems to work. And then I'm going to pass this through this bead here, this small bead. And remember, since I leveled them up, I'll have to pull these back down, and then I'm going to knot in between. I'm going to do an overhand knot and knot it like so. It's really a very basic and easy thing. I think it's really satisfying. I made a mobile in the spare bedroom using this technique. And I used to have it hanging in the store, and people were always try to buy it. And so it's very satisfying. So I kind of like knotting. I don't do as much knotting as I probably should in my life because I find that it's very meditative and I think that that's a good thing in life, but I don't do it as much as I probably should. So I'm just going to tie this knot all the way down to the end here and gently pull it. You want to make sure that you don't have any kind of like weird kind of loops. You see there I didn't pull it as tight, and so there's this weird kind of loop. Now doing this overhand knot is good so that the knots are large enough so that the beads don't slip over it. Now if it slips over these knots, it's not the end of the world, but they do have, the holes are not too small, but they also are not too big. But they are, if you pull this super, super tight, then the beads will go over it. And I want to keep the distinction in between here. So you can keep the distinction in between them by using that. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take and separate my cords out like so. And I'm going to make another knot like this. And that's going to help bulk up my knot in between here. All right. And then I'm going to put them back together and make these even again. Teresa says it's 6:03, so I've got a little bit of time. I've got 7 minutes or so to finish this. And then sometimes I'll just gently twist it. If it's really not going, I'll twist it together. Not super hard because I don't want to make it impossible to remove. But at the same time, I don't want the knot or the cords to get tangled up. But sometimes if they've got like a concave, or if they're hollow beads are kind of tricky sometimes to string. And the reason why, and I don't actually know if these are hollow or not, but sometimes the hollow beads are tricky because the cord will want to go up. And if you don't like aim it just right, it can go through the it can go through and kind of wrap around, and then it won't go through the actual hole. All right, so I'm going to do an overhand knot again. A happy little knot. I'm making a happy little knot. And I'm going to press this down. I did not get that one as close as I possibly could. So I'm going to gently try to undo this knot, which will probably mean that I can't do it. Sometimes you need a needle. I'm going to try to use my fingernails, and this is probably a bad move. Are y'all like cringing at home with how I messed up? I know I am. But I'm not going to get overly stressed about it. I made a knot. It was not where I wanted it. Oh, wow. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to go back tighter. And I'm going to just incorporate that into the design and make sure that it's really tight this time. Really tight this time. All right. So it's like a double knot, y'all. And then I'm going to do, I guess, a triple knot because I'm going to splay these out and then do a knot like this. And that's going to help keep this from slipping. So this is another way of doing that. All right, so I'm going to try to pass this through this other bigger hole. And I'm going to, if you want, you can graduate the beads. I think that makes a really pretty look. And then just pass this through the overhand knot, get that as close to the bead as possible. Otherwise, you're gonna have to do like me. One thing about this is that if you make too many extra knots, you're gonna run out of cord. So that's not the end of the world, but it's also you will run out of cord, and then you're gonna be like, "Whoa, Andrew, that did not work at all." And then I'll be like, "Well, if you make too many knots, it takes up extra cord." All right. So I'm gonna string up another of these larger beads. And then this bracelet, I think, I think the wax linen in the store is like $2, and you end up with a lot extra. So if you wanted to add extra cord, if you're worried, you can always double your cord. The thing about that is that if you have it too long, I found that if your cord is too long, it will get tangled and knot way easier than if you have a workable length. So I try not to whenever I do my knotting and stuff, I try not to make too long of a cord because that can get really messy. So, and like I've shown you, the knots, once they're in place, they are pretty locked in tight. So just keep that in mind. So the wax Irish linen costs about $2 in the shop. Um, and the beads, I think the 10 pack of the smaller beads we showed was $5, and these bigger ones they were $1 a bead, so that was $5. And then this clasp, which is like I think $2. I'm not sure. So it's a pretty affordable bracelet. And when you're not showing somebody on the internet how to do this, it goes actually pretty quick. Believe it or not. I know I'm dragging this out until the end of time. So Michelle says is 6:09 right now for me. So I have to hustle because otherwise I'm not gonna finish this in time. The meeting starts at 6:15, so I have a little bit of time. I like to go into the Zoom a little bit earlier because if I go to the Zoom like right on time, generally speaking, there's always an update. I don't know if it's just me, but it seems like uh, Zoom updates all the time. And I don't know if that's for security or what, but it seems like whenever I'm trying to get into a meeting, it has to download the latest thing or whatever. All right, so I'm just going to be repeating this a couple times more to get the length of the bracelet. And so you just go until you reach the length. I've put those in the middle-ish. Since this is a toggle bracelet, you do want to make sure that the bracelet is relatively tight, and you don't want to uh, make it too loose, because with a toggle bracelet, if it's too loose, you may as well just throw it out the car window and let somebody find it, because it will fall off if it's loose. I'm just telling y'all. So if you're worried about it losing it, you will lose it, because if it's a loose and the fitting is wrong, it will fall off. It may not fall off right away. And may you think, oh, it's holding, and then it just falls off, and then you're like, "Where's my bracelet?" And the person down the street that walks their dog and goes by your house, they're gonna be like, "Oh, look at that! What's that? That's my new bracelet." So make sure you get it somewhat snug when you do it. You don't want it so tight that it cuts off your chi. You know that won't uh, um, it won't it won't be bad because it won't fall off, but then it will be uncomfortable to wear, and then you're less likely to wear it. But another thing to consider is that natural fibers have a way of stretching. So keep that in mind, um, because over time, if you wear it a lot, it can get a little bit larger. So just keep that in mind. All right. I think I am past time here. Really, all I'm going to do is to finish this off, I'm going to do the same thing I did on that end. And then I'm going to tie this on with some knots on this end. So what I'm going to do basically is I can trim this so that they're the same length, or I can leave it there. Sometimes I leave it there just in case. And then what I'll do is I'll pass these two through the bar after I've knotted a bit. Because if you get this right across, if you get this right next to one of these beads, it's not going to want to bend, and then it's not going to want to operate as a toggle very well. So you want to have like half an inch or so of that cording so that it can fully bend down and fit through the hole. And then if you don't like the way this looks, you can always add little jingle jangles to it or spice it up that way. But it's important that you, when you add the bar, that you can turn the bar on its side so it can comfortably work as a clasp, as opposed to um, trying to use your teeth and toes to put your bracelet on. All right. So I have to go. Thank you so much for joining me and hanging out with me tonight. I appreciate it. William and I both appreciate all of you out there in our hashtag AGBead fam. And we are so grateful for all of you for empowering us to be able to do what we love to do. And I'll post the finished picture once I'm done with it. All right. So I'm just going to go from here. I'm not going to flip the camera around because I'm not going to figure out how to do that in time. So I hope you all have a great rest of your evening, and we'll be back tomorrow with more fun. All right. Have a great night, everybody. Bye bye.